That is the thing I see happening all the time, is like I keep expecting this person to save me from me, or to heal my wounds, or to help me become more secure, or to help me feel chosen, or to help me feel enough or lovable, or whatever that thing is. Not realizing that the entire purpose I've brought this person into my life for is actually to activate that wound so I can do the work on that wound.
What if I told you that the person you're most attracted to might be the worst person for you? And not because they're bad, but because that crazy chemistry you might feel just means that they remind you of your childhood wounds. Yeah, I said it. Today's guest, Vanessa Bennett, is not your typical therapist. She's worked with thousands of couples and individuals, and she's seen the same pattern destroy relationships over and over. We use relationships to hide ourselves when the whole point is that they're supposed to mirror us back to who we really are. If you ever lost yourself in a relationship, ever wondered why you keep attracting the same type, or you're a parent trying not to pass your patterns to your kids, you got to listen to this conversation. Everyone, I have a very important show to announce, and we're going to do it right now. This show is going to be about relationships, intimacy, parenting, growth, intimacy, deeper intimacy with yourself, more intimacy, more intimacy.
All the intimacy.
All the intimacy. Vanessa Bennett, depth therapist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have your book right here, The Motherhood Myth, that we're going to talk about that later, but yeah. I want to welcome you. You have great energy. People don't even know you're about to burst from the seams with all this wonderful information and all your personality and charisma.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, check it out. Let's go to rapid fire questions. Okay. How do you feel about that?
Let's do it. Dive right in.
Let's start. We're going to start with some things that I put together for you that I wanted to give a little appetizers for the people. What are some emotional behaviors that people praise as growth? But sometimes it's unresolved trauma. You can see it from the outside looking in. They're like, wow, they're really growing, but we're not looking at there's trauma under the rug.
Ooh, okay. So I guess the first thing that comes up when you say that is how often when we start doing our inner work, we'll swing the pendulum. So, and it's typical, but I'll break it down. So like, let's use boundaries as an example. Let's say you go into therapy and you're like, you realize you have no boundaries. You know, you're always saying yes when you want to say no. You're really struggling because you want people to look at you in a certain way or feel a certain way about you. So you're starting to learn the language of boundaries. You're starting to choose yourself. You're starting to say no. What happens, I find, is that you'll go from having no boundaries to suddenly you've swung the pendulum where it's like wall, right? That's a boundary. That's a boundary. And I'm like, well, that's not really a boundary. That's an ultimatum. We could talk about it more. Boundaries is just one example, but it's one that we can really easily get. So I find often somebody will talk about that being their growth when they don't realize that what's going on is you've swung the pendulum because your system knows what it feels like to be in one extreme, and now it kind of has to feel into the other so that you can then actually start doing the work of finding the middle ground.
I've seen it before myself. Yeah. Okay. What's something about relationships that people often learn far too late?
Far too late. Reciprocity, what true reciprocity actually means. Not taking, not giving, but doing a combination of both. I think we tend to live our lives in one or the other more than we would like.
In relationships?
Yep.
From all of the research, all of the work that you've done, what are most people avoiding in relationships that actually needs to be seen the most to heal?
Themselves.
They're avoiding themselves.
I mean,
okay.
That's literally the first word that came up, themselves.
Okay.
Relationships, the purpose of relationships is to mirror us back to us. We don't like to believe that that's the purpose, but that truly is the whole reason why we're here relating to one another, is so that we can see ourselves more clearly. And I think so often we use relationships to hide from ourselves, which is kind of the opposite of the point.
What is the most common lie people tell themselves to stay comfortable in relationships?
It's not me, it's them.
Oh yeah, pointing that way.
It's not me, it's you.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people even listening are like, oh shit. You know, what's one sentence you wish people said out loud more often in relationships?
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, that's a nice one. We don't say that all the time.
No, I mean, shit, even I could get better at that.
Amazing. Okay, you're off the hot seat.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. People just meeting you, really, I mentioned depth psychology, depth therapist. How do you explain that type of work? How is it different than just what we think about?
Therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so depth psychology is the umbrella term that's used to describe Jungian psychology, analytical psychology, and archetypal psychology. So it's like an umbrella, right? So most people have heard of Carl Jung. So depth is really informed by his life's work. The thing that makes it different is that depth is really what we call the psychology of the soul. That's what it's known as. While, of course, as a therapist, I'm taking into account behavioral patterns and I'm helping you with, like, let's say thought stopping techniques, like more CBT type work. Really, what I'm here to do is speak to you in the language of the unconscious. So I'm paying attention to dream, image, metaphor, things that are going to really help me get underneath the patterns and understand more about your soul's trajectory, your lifelong trajectory. So yes, childhood's important, of course, as part of that, but it's just not so much about the surface here and now.
Yeah.
It's deeper than that.
And in your work, was there ever a gear shift where you were going one way and then you decided, no, I want to go into this because I'm learning that this is the most important piece of relating to the world?
Yeah.
Was that always your plan to go into depth?
No, I mean, I was in advertising in New York for many, many years. That was my life. But, in hindsight, it makes sense, right? I was a storyteller. I was a visual creative storyteller. And so I was already working with the language of the unconscious before I actually started training in that. I knew that I wanted to be in therapy in some way. I was doing my own work and I was exploring different schools. And then I just remember my therapist at the time coming in and saying, I think you should check out this school. I think it would be really well suited for you. And I showed up on campus for some kind of introductory meeting and I had this full body wave of like my hairs stood up in the back of my neck. I welled up with tears and I was like, oh, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. And so I just had to lean into that.
I love that your body spoke to you. Like your soul, your nervous system, all activated, saying
Full
you are
knowing.
in the right space.
Yeah.
And through this process, as you learn more about yourself and patterns and archetypes, has that changed your own relationship to yourself?
Oh, immensely. I mean, I don't even know if I could put it into words. I think that our entire life is a process of, I mean, to sound a little bit cheesy, it's like coming home to yourself, right? We're born a certain way. And then through our creation of our persona, like what does the world want from me? What do my parents want from me? What does society want from me? We kind of do this thing where it's like we learn and then we integrate and then we pivot. We learn and we integrate and we pivot and we over time become, again, this person with this persona that works, that's acceptable, right? And I think so much of this work, and myself included, has been taking that mask off and returning to who I really am at my core, and being okay with that not always being acceptable to other people.
How has that informed your relationships? And I know you're married now. How has that informed your marriage from this perspective and this lens?
Yeah, I mean, I think that both him and I, he's also a therapist, so there's that. But I think both him and I are so committed to this lifelong work that we don't see our relationship as like, no matter what, we have to maintain this structure. It's like we are in this structure. It is serving both of us in this beautiful way. We're learning about ourselves through each other. We're learning about intimacy. We're pushing each other. But if that ever feels like that's not serving us in some way, we're both so committed to that being okay. And it's not that I'm taking it lightly. It's just that we both look at our relationships differently, I think, because of this work. So it's pushed me to face myself in ways that I was never able to do before, or just wasn't willing to maybe before, right? It shows you the deepest, darkest parts of yourself.
Oh boy, I know relationships do that. The way I say it is like, you can do all this self-reading and retreats and psychedelics if you want. You could do it all. And then like you're kind of behind the scenes in the locker room with the game plan. But when you're in the game, you're in a relationship. That's the embodied part. It's like, are you actually showing up as the person that you've been working on to be? And sometimes it seems near impossible. You're like, what's happening? You know, like you're so challenged. And I know the viewers and listeners can relate that the most triggering people in our lives are often the people we love the most.
That's right.
And so in relationships, how do we start becoming more aware of, okay, wait, this is their stuff. This is not mine.
Yeah.
Or, oh, wait a minute, this is a mirror
This is
being held
mine.
up to me?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, first of all, I think we have to understand that there's no such thing as doing it right or wrong or perfect or imperfect. A friend of mine uses this term life school. Like, this is life school. We're just here to grow and learn and evolve. And so long as I feel like I'm doing that, then I'm air quote doing it right. I'm not getting stuck. I'm not keeping myself in victim mode. I'm not growing, not evolving. So long as I can check those boxes, I know that I'm kind of succeeding on this journey, right? But I think that so often we get into these patterns again where we become really addicted to our roles. So again, if my role is victim, right, and everybody's always wronging me, I'm going to be really addicted to that, especially if it's been kind of cultivated over years and years. And so I'm going to bring relationships into my life, and I'm going to create stories in my life that are just going to perpetuate that story. So I think some of the biggest work comes from when we wake up and start questioning the roles, whatever that is, that we've become really attached to, and start challenging those. That's when I think some of the biggest work starts to happen.
That self-awareness moment. And all of us know the person who is always a victim of something. And you can feel that energy. And
Yeah.
at some point you're like, oh, do we see a pattern here emerging? Because it's often present. What is a thing in relationships that people keep repeating without realizing? Is it that? Is it the abandonment of like the self-awareness or pointing the fingers? Like, what is the thing that you see people just keep repeating over and over and over?
Expecting somebody else to heal you or fix you or save you. I think that's the biggest one that I see happen over and over again. So, again, like I was saying earlier about how the point of relationships is not to hide, right? The point of relationships is actually to see yourself fully.
Yeah.
And I think so often, especially culturally, we have not been taught that that's the purpose of relationships, even in our, like, I like to call our society very attachment obsessed right now. Even our attachment theory obsessed world says like, well, this person's going to help you become more secure. No, actually, this person's not going to. You are going to do the work to become more secure or not. It's going to be through the activation in this relationship that you become more secure by doing that work. But this person is not going to make you more secure, right? So I think that is the thing I see happening all the time is like, I keep expecting this person to save me from me or to heal my wounds or to help me become more secure or to help me feel chosen or to help me feel enough or lovable or whatever that thing is, not realizing that the entire purpose I've brought this person into my life for is actually to activate that wound so I can do the work on that wound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then we need tools to do the
Yes.
work, right? And,
Yes.
and you and I both know most parents aren't teaching those tools. So is this that when we become seekers? Do we start going, okay, like I know I have a responsibility because I keep getting triggered in this relationship and I'm not showing up the way I want to as a husband or a father or mother or partner, whatever it is. That's when we begin to look and try to go deeper into what's going on. We can have a therapist or just go down that journey.
Yeah, I think it's this idea of like, wherever you go, there you are, right? At some point, a lot of us wake up and we're like, oh, I keep seeing myself over and over again. Like I'm the common denominator here, right? And so
It's so true.
when you have that aha or that awareness around that, that becomes a jumping off point for some of us, right? To start doing that work, but not for everybody. And here's the thing, that's okay, right? Everybody's got their own trajectory. Everybody has their own soul's journey. And for some people, this go around, it's not that. But that doesn't have to impede upon me doing that work, right? I don't need somebody else to be anything else other than who or what they are in order for me to be okay. And that to me is some of the biggest work that we can do.
Big time. Yeah, there had to have been 3-4 breakups over 4 or 5 years where I was like, wait a minute. After that 5th breakup, I'm alone in the mountains. I'm like, is this me? And I was like, wait, am I the problem?
Am I the problem?
You should. And then I went in front of the mirror. I was just looking at myself. I was like, holy shit, I'm the problem. And there was another year.
Sure.
A year of like just totally behind the scenes doing all of this work.
Yeah.
And then when I jumped into the next relationship, then all the challenges came. And I was like, okay, I have to show up the way that I was practicing to show up, or I said I would show up. But my God, like when you viewers and listeners do this type of work, it is a completely different relationship.
Oof.
It's completely different.
It reminds me, so I got married a little over a year ago. And
Congrats.
during our vows, we were reciting things to each other. I actually made this comment where I said something along the lines of like, it's through you or through our relationship that I know now that I am enough. And a lot of people that were listening were like, oh, that's so romantic. But my friends who really knew me and knew our story were like, ooh, like I hear what she's saying. What I was really saying is it's actually through the activation that this relationship has brought me, where like this relationship, for whatever reason, has kind of poked at that over and over and over, that I know that I'm enough. It's not that he makes me feel like I'm enough. I know it because of the activation, So it's that. It's like that's kind of like that subtle difference between those of us who are showing up and saying, what's my 100%? What can I own? Because in any situation, in any circumstance, in any dynamic, there's always something that you can own. And that doesn't make me like bad or wrong or a victim. That makes me actually willing to own my shit.
And we can say that. We can actually say, right? Like, what can I own in this moment?
It doesn't diminish me. That's the I'm sorry piece. Owning my part, apologizing for my part doesn't diminish who I am as a person. That's a big thing that I don't think we learn growing up.
Yeah, of course. No, for sure.
I don't know how often your parents apologize to you, but for me, it wasn't very often.
And I think that generally speaking for men, we don't really see our dads emotionally vulnerable to even say, I'm sorry.
No.
I was in an Uber coming back from Topanga yesterday, and I was talking to the guy about relationships and men's work and being a better man in this world. And he was talking about his father, who's Brazilian. It wasn't until he was 14 he said, I love you. He never even heard I love you from his father. And he didn't even show a speck of vulnerability throughout his whole childhood.
Yeah.
So he said, well, I want to do the opposite when I raise my son. So my son has seen me cry. I give my son, he's 21 years old. I still hug him. I give him a kiss on his head. I smother him sometimes, like, Dad, get off me, But it's such a beautiful thing when I hear things like that. But accountability for men who are emotionally unavailable is crazy. We don't hear that at all. So there's viewers and listeners going, because there's a lot of women who listen to the show. They might say, ooh, that's my husband. That's my partner. What if will they feel alone in this solo trip of like, okay, self-awareness, growth? What if their partner doesn't want to grow with them? Look, it's January, it's a new year, and it shouldn't be about reinventing yourself. It should be about taking care about what is already there in existence. And if longevity feels overwhelming, I'm gonna tell you the good news. It starts with one simple daily habit. You have to take care of your mitochondria, ladies and gentlemen. You hear me talk about this. When you talk about living longer, you have to mention in the same sentence your mitochondria. You ever hear of MitoPure gummies from Timeline? I take it every single morning. It's actually the first thing I put in my mouth outside of drinking a lot of water in the morning. After I come back from my walk, after I do my myofascial stretches, after I do my sauna, I come back downstairs. It's the first thing I eat. And I do it for a reason. It's the first ever longevity gummy that supports overall cellular health. So you actually feel more vibrant all year. And you're taking something called urolithin A. And that is a powerhouse at renewing your mitochondrial cells, and it gets rid of all of the mitochondria garbage that needs to be cleaned up. As we age, our mitochondria declines. That's what aging is. And when your cellular energy drops, everything else follows, including your strength, including your recovery, including your mental clarity. MitoPure targets that decline directly. It is clinically shown to support your muscle strength, your muscle function, and help your body turn stress into usable energy. That's why I love it. I love gummies. They're sugar-free, they're allergen-free, there are no artificial ingredients. Like I said, it's a first thing that I put in my mouth every single morning, because I do love gummies. I look really forward to it after my walk. Look, healthy aging is a mix of so many things in your lifestyle, in the way you eat. But why not support it with something that works in the evidence? Don't let another year go by feeling less than your best. This is your year, 2026, ladies and gentlemen. Grab 35% off of your 1-month subscription of MitoPure gummies at timeline.com/DRG35. That's timeline.com/DRG35. Get it while the offer lasts. Yo, raise your hand if you like chocolate, if you like cocoa. Raise your hand. It doesn't matter if there's people around you, just raise your hand. Okay. I'm raising my hand too. Now, all cocoa is not created equal, you know that, but it's therapeutic. It's so good for your body. It's so good for your heart. I'm not talking about the milk chocolate, sugary stuff that you buy in a candy store. No. I'm talking about the therapeutic stuff. And I want to share a brand that I trust called Cocoa Dynamics from Santa Barbara Chocolate. You heard me talk about this company before and many reviews over the years. And what makes their cocoa unique is the cacao itself. It comes from a rare rainforest cacao variety that is grown near the headlands of the Amazon. It is specifically handled at every stage, from the tree to the fruit to the harvest to the final powder. And this is real food. It's not a supplement or an extract. Cocoa Dynamics is made in a way so it preserves the therapeutic nutrition of cocoa. What you're getting is polyphenols and flavonols, one of the best foods that you can eat. Cocoa Dynamics cocoa powder contains at least 7.5% of cocoa flavonols, and in most harvests, it's actually even going to be higher than that. It's non-alkalized, cold pressed, every batch is third-party lab tested. The way I do it, I put it in my morning beverage. If I'm not drinking matcha, I'm drinking this because I know that I'm getting the exact therapeutic nutrients to feed my brain and to feed my heart. And it's tasty. You're drinking chocolate in the morning, but it has therapeutic benefit for your whole body. So if you'd like to try it, visit santabarbarachocolate.com and look for Cocoa Dynamics high flavanol cocoa powder and use the code DRG20 for 20% off of your first order.
I mean, you can't drag somebody along.
You can't do it.
Right? Somebody, like I was saying, somebody's journey, their trajectory is theirs to own. The only thing that we can do is really work to see ourselves and improve ourselves. And sometimes that becomes like a mirror, or that becomes almost permission for somebody in our lives to do the same or not. And the or not is kind of the hardest thing, because I find a lot of times, and I don't want to gender this, but a lot of times with women, I'll find that we tend to view our male partners with this like the what if, like we're able to see in them the potential, right? I know they're this. I know they have the potential to be this. They're a good person. I know they're a good partner. I know they're a good husband. If only, right? And so a lot of times we'll be in relationships with the potential of somebody. And that is a really hard habit to break, but it's one that I think a lot of women need to really break. Because I do believe so long as I'm holding the potential for my partner, they don't actually have to hold it themselves. So they don't have to actually show up, so long as they have somebody in their life that's like, well, but I know that he's actually a good this, or I know that, underneath it all, he's this. You're not actually allowing that person to really see themselves. They're only like seeing the version of themselves that you're seeing, which I can understand can be a little romantic, but there's not a lot of accountability in that. And so I work with women a lot around this idea of being in a relationship with the person that's standing in front of you, not with the idea of this person, right? Because you deserve the same thing, actually.
Yeah, I saw this lady yesterday who was in an abusive relationship verbally, and the first 6 months were beautiful, and then the past year and a half hasn't been, and she's still holding on to the 6 months as the potential that can emerge one day.
I know it's there.
And it's crazy because I find that's a story that I often see in women is they'll latch onto that seed, and all they need is just a little bit of the seed to be like, okay, he'll come back. He'll grow. I felt his heart before.
Well, I think what's hard too is, and I think that maybe generationally we're getting a little better at this. It's holding the nuance. It's holding the yes and. This person is an amazing human, and right now they don't have the capacity to show up for me in the way that I know that I deserve to be treated, right? And there's a saying in Al-Anon, which is sometimes the loving hand says no, which I think is so powerful, right? Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to say, I know you're better than this, but I also know that I deserve more than this. And so I'm going to go this way. And with all the love and the respect in the world, it doesn't have to be nasty. I don't hate you. But, come find me if and when you ever want to meet me at that place. Right. But what I'm not going to do is actually sit around and witness you not being the best version of yourself, because I don't think that's loving somebody well. And so I love that saying, sometimes the loving hand says no. I also think this idea of nuance, or holding the kind of tension generationally right now, it's tricky because I can say how much I feel for men right now. I have so much respect and admiration for my brothers and the work that you guys are all doing right now. And I always say, right, whether we're talking about patriarchy or, white supremacy, colonialism, misogyny, all of these like dominator systems, capitalism, men and women are hurt in this. They're both equally hurt, right? Men are suffering just as much as women are suffering. It's a different kind of suffering, but it's still suffering. And I can hold that with respect, and I can hold that with like compassion, and also still not be very specific about the way I'm going to be treated.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess I say that to say, like, we can hold both, but still respect and honor ourselves in the relationships that we're like allowing into our lives.
There's the second part though, or the part about honoring yourself. That's often a difficult thing if you don't have sense of self or self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Because when I think of this person that I was working with yesterday, I don't think she has any self-confidence in herself.
Yeah.
She has some things that happened in her past that kind of strip that away. So all the more to say, it's so important to take that pause and go, okay, hold on. There's something here for me, and let me look at what's coming through. And I firmly believe every relationship is like that with mirrors, you know. And even the ones where I was unconscious common denominator in, there was still things that I noticed.
Sure.
Like the awareness was getting stronger. There's a lot of people who go, okay, I've done all the self-work.
Yeah.
I did all the books. I did all the seminars, but I keep attracting the wrong partner. What's happening in a situation like that?
Well, usually I will say, what part of you actually is desiring this kind of partner? So in depth psychology, we look at this idea of the symptom is serving a purpose, right? So whether that's anxiety, whether that's depression, whether that's the same kind of relationship, the symptom is serving a purpose. So if we can get to the bottom of what is the purpose that it's serving, oftentimes we can back our way into, why do I keep bringing it into my life? So for example, when I was talking about what I said to my husband during our vows, he's not the first man in my life that has, air quote, made me feel, and I say air quote because he's not making me feel, right? But that's what I used to say, making me feel like I'm not enough. My not enough wound has always been there.
Yep.
So of course I'm going to continue to find people that activate that wound, because it's one of the wounds that I need to heal in this lifetime. So I could say, oh, I keep attracting the wrong person. I keep attracting these people that make me feel like I'm not enough. Or I can say, what is this symptom trying to show me? I have a real wound around worthiness and around being chosen and around feeling like I'm too much or not enough, which is just the same side of the same coin, or two sides of the same coin. So if we can go there, I think that's really where we can start to heal the relationship component, right? What is this serving me? What is the purpose of this for myself? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that self-awareness of just seeing what is underneath that pattern. And that's the psychology, right?
Yeah.
Is like the patterns of what's happening and common denominator type stuff.
It's common denominator. It's also, one of the things I love about depth is that you can't separate out the personal from the collective. They're interchangeable. So while I'm working with somebody on a personal level, I'm also looking at them collectively. So whether that's familial or societal or global, you can't separate it, right? So one of the things I talk about almost ad nauseum is codependency. And I talk all the time about how we are a codependent society. Codependency is not just something that's like the wives of alcoholic husbands, which is what used to be talked about. It's like, no, this is what we've been taught love looks like, feels like, sounds like, smells like. So you can't say to somebody, you know, let's unpack codependency. A lot of times it's like telling a fish they're in water. What? What do you mean? This is just what love is. No, this is what you've been taught societally. So even that woman that you're talking about you were working with, I would love to know, I would love to pull out and talk about her in relationship to the society she lives in, right? Women are told that they are nothing if they're not chosen, period. Our whole purpose in life is to be chosen by a man, right? And so then once we do what we need to do to posture and get the guy, then we got to do whatever we can do to keep the guy, right? So when you think about that, you start to see how the behaviors make so much more sense. Then we can depersonalize, then we can say, well, this isn't serving me anymore. Why not, right? And then the conversation can take a different direction.
Yeah, totally sheds new light. More self-awareness, more, compassion too.
Compassion.
It's a bigger picture.
That's right.
So what about, there's people who often just, I met this guy. He's the best. Or I met this woman, she is the best. And they are head over heels in the first week. I've seen this happen. And I just sit back and I go, okay. At this point, I don't even intervene. I say, okay, just let it go. And what happens when people feel those sparks though?
Yeah.
All that chemistry. is that a real physiological process that is a normal, healthy process? Or how is it supposed to feel when you find someone who is good for you or going to challenge you in a way that you're going to grow together to mature relationship? What's the difference between those fireworks and a healthy, long-term, sustainable relationship?
I don't want to pathologize the intensity, right, of how
Yeah.
we feel, because it's beautiful and
Yeah.
magical and powerful. And there's something happening beneath the surface that I'm like, cool, let's invite that into the conversation, right? I think it's when we, again, in that early stage, we believe that this person is here to heal us, complete us. You know, there's some kind of magic going on.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, okay, well, enjoy it. I'm not saying don't enjoy it, but don't do it like put your mask on first, right? It's like that visual where you're like, don't just completely jump out of the plane, like put the air mask on. And don't lose yourself to the point where you, again, like you're acting in ways that aren't you.
Oh, yeah.
Right, which we see happen all the time. You're doing things that you would never do. You're speaking in ways you would never speak. You're hanging out with people you would never hang out with. That's to me when I see the slippery slope start to happen, because then my question is like, why? Well, usually it's about being chosen, right? I want to keep this feeling and I want to keep this person because this person equals this feeling, right? And so again, you're putting a lot of your power in somebody else. But I think that the chemistry and the sparks can be so great.
Yeah.
So long as we're tethered to reality and we don't completely lose ourselves. But yeah, I mean, people have said all the time, right? Chemistry can be dysfunction. Chemistry can be like, it smells like home. It smells familiar, right? There's chaos here and that feels familiar. Or there's a push-pull going on and that feels familiar, right? Or I'm pedestalizing this person and that feels familiar. So ask yourself these questions, like, what about this feels familiar? Just don't lose yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been guilty when I was younger to do that a lot. And I still see sometimes some friends do it. I say, wait a minute. You know, what's
Pump
that
the
movie?
brakes.
Was it Jerry Maguire? They said,
Yes.
you complete me?
Yes.
You
I was
complete
just
me?
talking about this with somebody the other day. I was in the nail salon and this woman said to this girl, she was doing her nails, and she said something about, it's Jerry Maguire's fault. He said, you complete me. And this girl who was like 26 was like, I don't know that movie. And I was like,
Oh my God. No.
Okay. Well, maybe that's okay for this generation to not actually see that
Yeah.
movie, because I think our generation is still healing from those wounds.
All of the wounds. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I need someone to complete me. That's all I needed in life, you know? And here it is imprinted for me in 10 years. And so, yeah, it's funny that you know, I was just thinking when you said that, I go, there's a movie that says you complete me.
Yep.
But we should be
Detrimental.
complete, or as best as complete as possible, or
Well, that's the
working on
point.
ourselves, or
That's
at
the
least in
journey.
a process of
Yeah.
it. You know, and I think that that's what happens. There's like illusionary void that is like he or she is so exciting or refreshing or new that I feel alive. There's an aliveness. These dopamine and adrenaline goes up.
And again, cool, like enjoy it. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that it has to always be a bad thing, but just don't lose sight of their humanity and your humanity. Because that's something I think I've been guilty of that too. Like I see this person and I put them on this pedestal,
Yeah.
and I'm not seeing the reality also of who they are, right?
Yeah.
And I don't believe that's loving somebody well. I have to love somebody in their totality. Otherwise, I'm picking and choosing, and that doesn't feel like love to me.
100%. The emotional unavailability that people show up with, is that to like a fragment of cultural, societal? So I'm thinking about a lot of men because, you know, I was thinking about the Uber driver. There's a lot of, and I work with a lot of women, and man, one of the number one things is I just wish that he was connected to his heart. I wish he was more vulnerable. I wish he was held more space when I feel emotions, or my daughter feels emotions, or my son. Is that emotional unavailability in men in particular? Would you say it's a part of a bigger picture? All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. You ever feel sluggish in your body, like really sluggish, like you just feel like a snail, like a slug? You can't even like go up and down the stairs. Like you're doing all the things right, but something feels off. And I'm gonna tell you something that most of y'all don't even realize. Your liver is working overtime every single day. It's gonna process and eliminate toxins, we know that. And the key molecule that makes all things possible in your liver is glutathione. I know you heard about it. Glutathione is the master antioxidant. It's what binds heavy metals, pesticides, environmental chemicals, so your body can actually clear them out. Without adequate glutathione, and I've done a lot of testing on a lot of patients nutritionally, and I always check for glutathione, it is low across the board. A lot of y'all are depleted in glutathione. Toxins will begin to eliminate because the liver is not efficiently getting rid of them. Now, traditionally, you may need an IV of glutathione to get meaningful levels of glutathione back in your system. But that's because most oral forms will get completely destroyed in your digestive tract before they do anything good. In comes Row Nutrition, RHO. They solve the problem by making their glutathione liposomal. Liposomal is a technology that wraps glutathione molecule in a phospholipid membrane. That's important because the phospholipid membrane is the same material. That means it is protected through digestion and delivers directly to where your body needs. And the results speak for themselves. In an open label study, Row's liposomal glutathione showed 20 times higher absorption compared to standard glutathione powders, 20 times. So I do my little rituals in the morning. I'll take a walk, a really long walk. I go on the beach every morning, rain or shine. And I come back home and I start making my matcha. I open my fridge, and in my fridge, I have my Row bottles lined up, and I take a teaspoon of every single one, including glutathione. That's all you need, a teaspoon. And it makes a difference. Trust me, mental health, clear skin, energy, detoxification. Row Nutrition is giving you, the Heal Thyself listener, 20% off site-wide. And the nice thing is you're not taking more capsules. You got a little tasty liquid in there that's sweetened, and you take a little shot of it. I want you to head to RHO Nutrition and use the code DRG at checkout. That's Row, RHOnutrition.com. And the code is DRG for 20% off of everything. You know the old saying that says, let food be thy medicine? Well, I'm gonna add a little something to it. Let good oil be the foundation. Because here's one thing. One of my favorite things is when we have family and friends together and we're cooking. And as of last year, when I did an olive oil review show, olive oil became top of my list, not only because it's so healthy overall, but not all olive oil is created equal. And there's a company that you probably seen out there called Graza, and it is honestly one of the best olive oil companies out there. And I'm going to tell you what makes a difference. It's delicious, easy to use, extra virgin olive oil, and they make it at an everyday price so you don't have to feel guilty about how much you're using. And you should use a lot of olive oil. It's really good for your heart. And when I say fresh, this olive oil is fresh. They pick, they press, they bottle all of their olives in the same season in Spain. And one of the most important things for olive oil, you can see the harvest date right on every bottle. That is transparency. You usually don't get that. You open it up, there's no harsh or funky flavor. When you open it up, there's no harsh or funky flavor. It's that good, dark, rich olive oil. It's clean and it's pure. And here's one of the craziest things that made this company so popular is that they use squeeze bottles. So it makes cooking way more easier. You don't even know the amount of times I've poured olive oil and it's just splattered all over my food. With the squeeze bottle, you are going to be very precise with how much you want, how much you need. Now they got two varieties, and this is the genius part. There's a variety called the Sizzle. That's your everyday cooking oil. It's perfect for roasting, sauteing, anything that you're doing. And then there's a Drizzle. This is the punchy, flavorful, it's the finishing oil, and it's really nice for dipping bread if you're feeling very Mediterranean, for salad dressings, and honestly, you could put it over anything, even ice cream if you want to get fancy. But the quality and the difference is real. You're going to see it the moment you open the bottle. You can even squirt it into a little shot glass and see and taste. It's vibrant, it's bright, it has the grassy, aromatic quality that tells you this is the real deal, and it's single origin, clean, non-toxic. I have checked their back-end papers. It's an incredible olive oil. And right now, you, the Heal Thyself listener, you get 10% off of your first order. I highly recommend get the dual. Get the Sizzle for the cooking, the Drizzle for the finishing. Head to graza.co and use the code DRG. You get 10% off and get the cooking, your next chef quality meal for your family and friends. That is Graza, GRAZA.co. And the code is DRG.
100%. 100%.
It's just perpetuated.
Yeah, I mean, we've got, I would say almost thousands of years at this point of a certain type of masculinity being taught and prized. Boys don't come out of the womb not being able to connect to their emotional selves. There's actually been newer research that shows that little boys are actually more, air quote, emotional than little girls are. They're actually more deeply feeling than little girls are. And so that it's societal because they're not born that way. The tricky thing, among a million tricky things with the way that we, raise our boys to be men, is that just because we shame emotions and vulnerability and deeply feeling and connectedness and all these things out of our boys doesn't mean that it goes away. It means it goes into the shadow. So it's what ends up happening, what I see happen as adults, is that men then look for those outlets in other ways. So they find a woman, for example, that they can feel through, or they find an addiction that they can feel through, right? Or they get really, I can't talk. They get really closely connected to anger or rage because they can feel something, right?
It's intense.
Yeah. And so it doesn't go away. It just gets kind of misdirected or almost like siphoned off of somebody else, which I see happen a lot in heteronormative partnerships. Oftentimes they're like siphoning that off from their female partner. And especially when kids come into the picture, what I see happen so often is that the woman spent a lot of her time allowing that or kind of engaging in that behavior with the man because, again, I need to be chosen and I need to keep this copacetic and keep him happy, right? Then they have these children and they're so busy and so consumed with trying to be the emotional regulator for this baby or trying to be everything, keep this child alive. They don't have the same time or the capacity. And it turns into a rift between their partnership.
Oh, okay. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And that's the part of parenting that sort of we don't even talk about or expect. What's a dynamic now? We're going to have kids. If there's a pathological dynamic, it's going to come to the surface even more with children.
It happens all the time.
Wow. And that's why people get divorced.
Yeah. Like they say, like the first 2 years of having a child is like some of the hardest moments in a marriage. And I think oftentimes it's that. There's a real misconception or just like not an understanding of what mothering requires. And in the way that our system is set up, we have kind of set men up. And again, this is said with compassion. We've set men up to believe that they are the center of the universe, that women rotate and evolve around them, right? And so once they don't do that anymore because they can't, there's this interesting like jealous dynamic, this competition that happens between the men and their children. Wow. And it really creates very unhealthy dynamics in that now trifecta, for example.
Men's testosterone drops when they have children.
Yeah, naturally.
I think maybe it's an evolutionary reason. So like, not to get grim, but like, so the dad doesn't kill the child.
I mean, I would believe that that's partly it. Yeah,
do you know what I mean? That it might be an evolutionary thing. When you think of the animal world, you know, there's less aggression.
There's less aggression. And I mean, think about it, right? Like we know sociologically that the way that we pair bond and raise children in a house with two people, you know, maybe two people if you're lucky, two parents, that's not normal for our species, right? So if you go back, oftentimes we were raising everybody's children. We were raising children together collectively. So you also couldn't have aggression or jealousy going on because we needed to be able to share resources, right? So there's a lot of reasons why for men, yes, their testosterone decreases. And for women, a lot of times the other thing happens, right? Like estrogen increases because they need more connectivity, which is also interesting as we get older because now I'm 41. Now you're seeing estrogen start to decrease, which means women in my generation, my age, are less worried about everybody feeling happy and okay, right? And so now we're walking around like, screw it all.
Doing your thing.
It's fascinating.
It really is an interesting movement throughout the years for women. Because when you say that, I just think of this person's mom I know. She's an awesome mom, but she's more like, fuck it. She's like, you guys are grown up, do your thing. I'm not going to cook today. You guys are ordering. And everyone's like, huh, what's happening? You know?
Well, and we're having children later, right? Which is also interesting. I mean, more women are having children in their 40s than ever before. And so it's coinciding with this like perimenopausal time where the estrogen's starting to decrease. It's really interesting. And we're the first generation too, so we don't really know the long term. It'll be fascinating 10 years from now to be looking at this stuff and talking about it.
You know what movie I watched this week? Runaway Bride. You ever see that? Richard Gere and Julia Roberts?
Julia Roberts.
Did
it hold up?
I was watching it with my partner, but I was really the one who put it on. She was reading a book the whole time, and then my friend called me, and I was like, she got me watching Runaway Bride and stuff. I don't know why we're watching this. She's like, what? I'm reading a book. You're watching it. I'm like laughing at the scenes. I was like, Richard Gere is crazy. And in this, she's literally running away from intimacy. She gets on a horse, runs away. She sprints out of the church, runs away, gets on a bus, runs away. About 4 or 5 marriages, she runs away. And it got me thinking about avoidance. And Julie Roberts embodies that so well.
Mm-hmm.
And the writers wrote the script so well for her because she is not only avoiding the person, but she loses her sense of self.
Yeah.
So say, for example, at the end, Richard Gere is saying, what eggs do you really like? Because she likes the eggs that each partner
Yep.
likes. That was her favorite egg. And so when people are in the avoidance, they're shutting down, they're running away. Is it because they've lost themselves in the relationship? They've people pleased in the relationship? Or it's just a way that they learn to deal with uncomfortable feelings?
I mean, it's the big question, right? Because I think that there's not necessarily one right answer to that. I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say if we're talking attachment, right, I tend to relate more to the avoidant side if we're talking about the spectrum here from anxious to avoidant. And so often what I find with avoidance is there's a real fear of being consumed. There's a real fear. So Julia Roberts, I actually cannot be myself and be in close, intimate relationship, not just romantic partnership, but any intimate relationship.
Yeah.
Because I have experience of in the past, there either hasn't been room for me to be myself, or I don't have maybe the emotional fortitude to say, no, this is the kind of eggs that I like. And so I avoid it because it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Right. And so in saying that, though, what I think is interesting is how in our culture, we kind of demonize the avoidant more than the anxious in this whole anxious avoidant dance that we're pop culturing right now. Yeah. And I would say actually that even in the more anxious way of attaching, there's still avoidance because it's still not really seeing yourself. You're still not really being with yourself and your discomfort. You're actually using somebody else as a release valve, which in my opinion is still a form of avoidance. So I don't care where you are on this like attachment spectrum. I think the end of the day, it's all about avoiding having to sit with yourself, having to sit with the discomfort that intimacy and vulnerability bring up and not having to respond. So whatever your response is, running or clinging, it's still a response, right? And it's still like a knee-jerk reaction. It's an attempt to make myself feel less uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So the more we're able to sit with that and actually ride that wave of discomfort and not act, that's where that growth is going to come into play. That's where the Julia Roberts character over time is going to be able to say, no, I actually like this kind of egg and it doesn't matter what relationship I'm in. But she's just pushed away and responded to her feelings so quickly that she's never sat with herself long enough to get to the bottom of that answer.
And we need to do that.
Yes.
Especially before we have kids.
I mean, ideally.
It's such an important piece, right?
Ideally.
Isn't this how we pass on our own habits and patterns to our children, even if it's unconscious?
It is almost always unconscious, right?
Okay, it's almost always unconscious. It's incredible because sometimes parents will always do their best as possible in the relationship, maybe not to be their dad or their mom.
Yeah.
But when they're in the fire, their dad or their mom often shows up and children see that.
Yeah.
They feel that, right?
Yeah.
And so for all the prospective parents or already the new parents, what is our job right now to do?
Okay, so speaking as somebody who has a 5-year-old, so I'm still very in the thick of like early new parenting. I find that my job so often is about regulating myself. So a regulated and happy mother is so often the most important thing for a regulated and happy child, right? I mean, they borrow our nervous systems for the first like 8 or 9 years that they're on this planet. And so it's regulating myself, but regulating myself also doesn't mean being perfect and calm and attuned and grounded all the time, because that's not realistic. That's not human.
Yeah.
I lose my shit. I'm a human being, right? But regulating myself looks like when I catch myself in the midst of losing my shit, am I able to come back to earth and I do this with my daughter, own it, apologize for it, and talk about what happened. That's the part that our generation, generally speaking, did not get. And the generations prior to them, right? So I'll give you an example. My daughter and I have this perpetual fight about her teeth getting brushed. I hear it's a normal fight, but boy, does it feel intense when we're in it. We had, it got to a head maybe about a month ago, and it was this screaming match. I felt myself completely leave my body and I'm totally dysregulated, right? And the morning ended with me obviously coming back into my body, realizing, whoa, kind of lost it there a little bit. And she's on my lap, she's crying, I'm crying, we're talking about what happened, and I'm saying, that wasn't cool. Like, I got really frustrated. It's really hard for me to have the same argument with you every single day. I lost my cool. I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't cool. You didn't deserve that. Apologizing to her for it. And then also in that conversation saying, listen, we need to be a team and come up with a plan because this isn't working for either one of us, right? So I need you to actually come to me with some ideas on like, what do you think we could do differently moving forward, right? And then by the time she got in the car to go to school, she was regulated, I was regulated, we were connected again. It didn't wipe away what happened, but that is what feels so different than I think a lot of the generations prior experienced, you know, was the repair.
For sure.
After the rupture.
For sure. And oftentimes it was, well, the parents are not inviting in that, you know, age appropriate autonomy where we can kind of think for ourselves a little bit, start feeling into what do I like, what's important for me. But most of the time in the old days, I'm your age, is that.
The old days.
The old days, you
Back
know?
in the 1900s.
Yeah. When like Debbie Gibson was on TV, you know, like those days, it was just like our parents' final word. That's it.
Yeah. What I say goes.
And we're like, okay. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, it seems like our generation was living and growing up more in fear, generally speaking.
I would agree.
And now there's more resources that hopefully more parents are having their children kind of have a sense of self, build their sense of self. And there was often a fracture and just no repair. At least from my experience, it's like, okay, we're never going to talk about that.
We pretend
again.
like everything is fine the next day.
Yeah.
Right?
And the repair seems so important because you're teaching your daughter, and for the viewers and listeners, we're teaching our children to sort of come back to their balance. That's a tool that they can forever use.
Forever.
We don't know how to come back to it. We just shove it in there.
That's right.
You know,
That's
so
right.
it's what a gift that you can have real moments as a mother.
Well, and I always say too, you know, kids learn by what they see, not by what they hear. So if my daughter is watching me, sure, she sees me lose my shit and be a human, but she also sees me not beat myself up for doing that. Number one, she sees me coming back down to a state of regulation, taking deep breaths, having a conversation with her about it. She's watching that. And not just even my relationship with her, but in my relationship with my husband. Like him and I got into it this morning and she's there. We are not the people who only fight behind closed doors. We're also not like the scream and call each other names and slam doors kind of people. But we will have arguments. You know, she's the bluey generation. So she'll ask me, are you guys squabbling? Which is what they say in that show. Are you guys squabbling? And I'll say to her, yes, we are squabbling, but everybody squabbles. You and I squabble, you and dad squabble, but then she gets to watch us talk it out and come back together and repair, right? So she doesn't just feel the tension and then the next day everybody's pretending like everything is fine. No, we're going to let her witness the repair and we'll probably keep repairing later today.
Yeah.
You know?
And that signal would have been imprinted in hers.
Yes.
Okay, well, if there's tension, there's a fight, we're not going to talk about it. It'll be fine the next day.
We just pretend like everything's fine.
They sponge it up.
They sponge it up and their nervous system knows that everything's not fine.
Of course.
Even
Yeah,
if
for
consciously
sure.
people are telling you, which I see happen all the time, right? With parents that are in a really bad place, but they are not telling their kids what's going on. I'm like, your kids are not stupid.
feel
Even if
it.
they're 2 or 3, they know in their bodies that
100%.
something is wrong. And what happens is that just feels unsafe. Now you're looking at me and saying everything is fine. And I'm going, well, either you're lying or my body is lying.
Yeah.
But something is lying, right? And what happens, especially when we're little, we can't believe that our parents are lying because that's too dangerous for us. So we believe that we're the ones that are wrong. So then we start to not trust ourselves.
We totally lose that authentic barometer
Happens
where our
all the
body
time.
goes, hey, this is truth. And we're like, no, it's not.
It's not truth because mom and dad are telling me that everything's fine.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Because there are adults who have never done any self-work or have the self-awareness yet that are living like exactly like that, completely abandoning their truth, abandoning their body because they learn how to do it at such a young age over time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a lot of us, honestly. I think self-abandonment is like, that's like the hallmark of codependency. And so I think when you've been taught growing up that you have to be a certain way to be loved, you have to act a certain way to be loved, right? It's like this tap dancing for your belonging, I say. That becomes a lifelong pattern, right? And so if shoving down conflict and pretending like everything is normal was the way that you saw people loving each other, then that's of course what you're going to keep doing as an adult.
Yeah, and so much of that power is coming back to your body and realizing how important it is. When I went back on the dating scene after I was the problem, I actually felt immediately in the first few seconds when I met someone how I feel. And then an hour into it, I would check in. So I'd go to the bathroom. I'd say, I'll be right back. I'll go to the bathroom. I close my eyes. I'd be like, how do I actually feel about
I
this
love this.
person?
Yep.
Instead of letting my mind go, oh,
Yes.
she's beautiful and I like her fashion, all these
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But like, what do you really feel like?
Yes.
And that's such an important truth that I didn't have that skill as a kid. That had to be developed as an adult. And for like people viewing and listening who are on dating and single, it's such an important piece not to lose ourselves. And I would imagine, especially for women wanting to be chosen, to sort of they're maybe very easily letting go of like their own boundaries of like,
Very
no, it's
easily.
important for me that a man has integrity or speaks his truth or holds good space. Maybe his space holding isn't that good, but he wants to be with me.
And on paper, it's this,
And on
this.
paper. So it's really, I never thought about that collective consciousness, being informed because I'm a man, I think my way.
Yeah,
I hear it,
and
I
you're
can
part of it
empathize.
too,
But yeah, we have our own
That's right. I mean,
experience.
you guys have your own version of the choose me wound. I mean, it's
Yeah,
definitely not just
exactly.
women,
It's
but
incredible.
but we have to be able to look at it collectively if we're actually going to change it.
Yeah.
It's because you have to depersonalize it. It helps me go, oh, okay, well, I'm a part of a system, but now having that separation, I can say, I'm not broken. I'm part of a broken system. Now what do I do about it? Right? I have more agency now to change it. I almost look at it as like a form of activism. I can make this change
Yeah.
because I'm standing up against a system that doesn't actually give a shit about me and my emotional health. Let's be
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
It actually thrives on me not being connected to myself. It thrives on me being a self-abandoning, right? It thrives on me placing my worth and my value outside of myself because I'll keep buying things. I'll keep, staying in a perpetual state of
Yeah.
dysregulation.
It's like this embodied version of you is the biggest FU to, the standard.
1000%.
What one last thing I wanted to touch on is in an argument, because I was thinking about this, for people viewing, listening, they go, oh, I have a partner, we have kids. And sometimes we get into stuff. Is there a proper way, a healthy way to argue in front of your kids?
I mean, again, when I say that my partner and I squabble, to use
Yeah.
the Blueyism, in front of my children or my child, I know that's because him and I, no matter what, are never going to get to the place of name calling or,
sure.
we've done enough work where I know that we're just not like that anymore. If it were ever to get exceptionally heated, I would actually go into the other room.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there's like a right or a wrong or a healthier, well, I know there's an unhealthy way, but I don't think there's like a perfectly healthy way.
Yeah.
I just think it's, again, being mindful of your children are learning by what they're seeing, right? So keeping that in mind. It's like we can love someone and fight with them, right? Which is what I was telling my daughter. So if I am always acting from a place of love, even when I'm fighting with somebody, what does that sound like? Right? Well, it doesn't sound like attacking someone's character.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like name calling. It doesn't sound like intimidation or making this person feel less than, right? So if I can remember that no matter what, my highest self wants to be acting out of love, I can bring that even into an argument. Now, I know a lot of people are going to roll their eyes and be like, yeah, cool. But when I'm activated,
Yeah.
that all goes out the window. That's fair. Take a break. Take a break. I had somebody ask me one time, do you think it's healthy to, well, I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but like, do you think it's healthy to stay up all night arguing? Or do you think it's healthy to go to bed mad? That's what he said. And I was like, yes, 100% yes, I do. Because if you need to take a break, you need to take a break, even if that's going to bed. It's not healthy to keep going and going and going and going. It's actually healthy to go regulate yourself and then come back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it changes the energy when you revisit the conversation.
Yeah.
When at least one person's regulated.
Yeah,
Or
it's not-
half regulated.
It's not 2 a.m. You're not exhausted. You're
For
not,
sure.
go take a walk, go take a glass of water, like do your thing for a little while, 20 minutes, whatever, then come back to it.
Yeah.
No one's benefiting for us continuing to like beat this horse,
Yeah. So I know you've done a lot of your work around relationships and intimacy and connections and attachments. And then you got the motherhood myth. This is the new one.
Yeah.
And this is about parenting.
Yeah.
But what can we expect to get in this book?
So this book it's broken up into 3 sections, right? So the first section is motherhood, the second section is sex, and then the third is relationships. So really the myth, the kind of overarching myth that I talk about is this idea that parenthood and relationships should be inherently easy and they should completely fulfill you. And if they don't, there's something wrong with you, right? Which I think is a myth that a lot of us get, even if you're not a mother or a parent. I really wanted to break this idea that, number one, they should be inherently easy, which is the conversation that you and I are having. It's a struggle for all of us, and that's normal. But also, I don't think that I am going to be completely fulfilled by my partner or by my child. I think that is actually an inside job. And kind of going back to what I said about our society actually functions on the backs of those of us who are trying to externally fulfill themselves, right? So those of us who are doing the work, who are going inward and who are trying to fulfill ourselves that way, we're a bit of a threat to the system, right? We're a bit of a threat to capitalism. We're a threat to patriarchy and, white supremacy and all of these things. So I just wanted people to understand that they're not alone. They're not broken. These are societal and historical patterns that go back centuries. So a lot of this is like, how did we get here? I do a lot of more like anthropological work around helping people understand that. And then what do we do about it moving forward? So for example, in the sex section, the conversation you and I had around how men tend to siphon that relational connection off of their partners. I talk about that, how that shows up in the dynamics with children, right? So there's a weaving together of what shows up for you as a parent, but also in your relationships and your sex.
Amazing. Where do we get it?
Anywhere. It's wide.
It's all over the place.
All over the place.
I can go to Barnes and Nobles.
You can.
Wow. And I get this one autographed maybe?
Maybe. Okay. I can do that for you.
Amazing. And how do people find you? More about you?
Everything's on my website, vanessabennett.com. All the many plates that I spin are listed there. I'm mostly on Instagram, Vanessa S. Bennett, but like many people, I have a love-hate relationship with social media these days. So come to my website.
It comes to that place if you're on it long enough. It's like, love, I love this. This is so easy and great. Oh, wait, I hate it. Yep. I don't want it.
I'm going to disappear for a month.
Yeah, I'm locked out. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I really, really love the way that you communicate your message.
Thank you.
There's a lot of heart and charisma and realism.
Yeah.
Right. This is real examples, your story, and I can feel your compassion behind wanting to progress people and awaken them to these things. It's the most empowering thing.
Yeah.
Everyone at some point hopefully will be gifted a relationship that will challenge them. It's the best way. It's the best medicine that exists. Done a lot of psychedelics. Nothing compares to relationships. It's crazy.
That's the truth.
So thank you for your work.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me here.
Amen.